What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'm doing a silly season update where I'm going to recap everything that's happened so far in the 2023 to 2024 NASCAR silly season. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. In the beginning of the year, in the second week of January, Kevin Harvick would announce he would retire at the end of the 2023 season. Then he would confirm at the LA Clash during the pre-race that he'd be joining the Fox Sports booth on a full-time basis in 2024. After a very successful season and a very successful career, Kevin Harvick will hang up the helmet at the end of the 2023 season. Then a few days later, Kyle Larson would be announced he'd be running the 2024 Indianapolis 500 with Aaron McLaren with Hendrick Motorsports support. Kyle Larson actually run 2 years, as it was confirmed a few weeks later he'd be running not only in 2024 but in 2025 as well, as Kyle Larson is arguably the best driver in the NASCAR Cup Series today. Will have the opportunity to become the first driver to win the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day. So the season will be quiet for a few weeks, and then a few weeks later, Casey Mears would speak to the media at the Phoenix test during the short track package test that he wants to return to NASCAR. He says he wants to run around 6 or 7 races in the future and would love to come back and race in NASCAR in the foreseeable future. After that, a few weeks later in late January, it would be announced that Chase Briscoe had signed a multi-year extension with Stewart-Haas Racing. While the details were not officially announced how long the extension was, it's expected that Chase Briscoe probably will be at Stewart-Haas Racing for pretty much the rest of his career. Chase Briscoe's had a lot of success at Stewart-Haas Racing, so it's not a shock and a surprise that he has a long-term extension with Stewart-Haas Racing. Then silly season would be quiet for a few more weeks, and then on Daytona Media Days, a bunch of drivers would have their extensions announced. First, Daniel Suarez in the morning of the Tuesday, he would be announced that he had signed a multi-year extension with Trackhouse Racing. While details were not officially confirmed to the media, it's expected that Daniel Suarez has a contract currently through the 2025 season. As he's been with Trackhouse since 2021, he'll be with the team at least for the next few years. On the same day, it would be announced that Alex Bowman had also signed a contract extension with Hendrick Motorsports through the 2026 season. In addition to that, it was also announced that Ally had signed their extension through the 2028 season. It had been expected Alex Bowman was going to return to Hendrick Motorsports. There have been rumors it was going to happen, and it was officially confirmed that it would happen. Then, on the next day, Ross Chastain would also announce he had signed a long-term contract extension with Trackhouse Racing. While details were not provided to the media, it's expected that Ross Chastain will be a lifetime driver at Trackhouse Racing and will never leave Trackhouse Racing and will continue driving for the team. After a really good 2022, while he struggled somewhat in 2023, he's done a really good job with the Trackhouse Racing group and will be at the team for many years to come. Then a few weeks later, we see Steve Lauletta speak to the media, and he says that 2311 Racing is planning expansion. While 2311 Racing currently has 2 cars, they do have technically a third part-time car. We're going to see Kamui Kobayashi make his NASCAR Cup Series debut in the Indy Road Course in that car, and that car could be available for Kurt Busch when it potentially returns. We also seen Travis trying to get behind the wheel of the 67 car as well. It's expected, though, the 2311 Racing long-term will expand to 3 full-time cars. It could happen in 2024 or 2025. So the season would be quiet for a very, very long time. And then at the Atlanta weekend, after Austin Hill won the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Atlanta Motor Speedway after a really strong start to the year, Austin Hill, after getting his 3rd win of the year, would reveal to me that he wants to go Cup Series racing in 2024. Now, he's making select Cup Series starts in the last year or 2, but Austin Hill has proven himself that he deserves an opportunity and a shot to go full-time in the Cup Series and could go to the Cup Series full-time in 2024. If, of course, they can find a ride and sponsorship for him, because he does have sponsorship funding from Bennett Family Company. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with Austin Hill. Then a couple days after the Atlanta race, Hailie Deegan's basically future has been talked about quite a bit. And Ford's executive, Mark Broshuk, revealed to me that Ford is committed long-term to Hailie Deegan. And there is a potential possibility Hailie Deegan could move up to Xfinity Series in 2024 on a full-time basis. While she struggled with Motorsports so far this season, Hailie Deegan, I think, would not be surprised if she does make some Xfinity Series starts in 2023. But there's a good chance, a possibility that she'll be moving up full-time to the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2024. Then Dale Jr. basically had Chip Ganassi on his podcast, and Dale Jr. was asked a question by Chip Ganassi what about Junior Motorsports going Cup racing. While Dale Jr. revealed that Junior Motorsports is still trying to move up to the Cup Series. The thing that's been holding Junior Motorsports back is the charters. There have been rumors about Junior Motorsports for the last few years. Obviously, those conversations have been going on since 2021. They almost came up in 2022, and they also came very, very close to jumping up in 2023 as well. Like I said, the biggest key thing holding them up from coming back going up the Cup is basically a charter. Hopefully they can acquire a charter so they can long-term move up to the Cup Series. On that same podcast, Chip Ganassi revealed that he is not ruling out a potential return of bringing Chip Ganassi Racing back to the NASCAR Cup Series. While it's not going to be in 2023 or 2024 they could return, I could see Chip Ganassi Racing potentially returning in 2025. It's really cool to see Chip Ganassi's not ruling out the possibility of them returning. The big question would be what drivers could they bring their drivers from their IndyCar team, like a Scott Dixon perhaps. That could be a potential possibility, but it sounds like Chip Ganassi Racing could, in the long run, in the long term, return to NASCAR. Then over throughout the course of the season, we've been following the story of Kurt Busch. And Kurt Busch has publicly said that he's getting closer and closer to returning to NASCAR. He revealed basically in Chicago that there's a third car that is at 2311 Racing. He still continues to work on ways to get back. He's still pushing to get back behind the wheel, and he's hoping to return to the NASCAR Cup Series in the foreseeable future. Hoping to get returned by the end of the 2023 year. He's committed. He's fully committed to getting back into shape to get back behind the wheel, and hopefully he will return to the NASCAR Cup Series in the not-so-distant future. Then, after a very successful run at Circuit Americas making his NASCAR Cup Series debut, Jensen Button has said multiple times he's been interested in running full-time in NASCAR. While I don't think it'll be in the Cup Series unless he drives for Rick or Racing, it's really interesting to hear that Jensen Button is interested in wanting to race in NASCAR. It'd be really cool to have him come into NASCAR. Then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it would be announced that Legacy Motor Club out of nowhere would be switching to Toyota in the 2024 season. Noah Gragson and Eric Jones are expected to be both of the drivers who will drive the car, so Noah Gragson will continue to drive the 42 car, and we'll see Eric Jones drive the 43 car, which means both drivers will be going back to the Toyota stable. And it was confirmed earlier today, or yesterday when you're watching this video, that Jimmy Johnson will drive a Toyota at some point in the 2024 season. Unclear how many races he's going to run, but I imagine he'll probably run the Daytona 500 and a couple races for Legacy Motor Club, but they will switch to Toyota in 2024. Then during Miami Grand Prix weekend about a month and a half ago, Lewis Hamilton revealed to the media, to the F1 media, that he's actually interested in racing in NASCAR. And Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick spoke to the media at the Sonoma weekend, and they say they would love to bring Lewis Hamilton in to run in NASCAR as well. Lewis Hamilton, of course, arguably the greatest Formula 1 driver in history of Formula 1. It'd be really fun to have him join the sport. Then, after Ryan Truex won the Xfinity Series race at Dover, Ryan Truex says he's working on a full-time ride for 2024 with Joe Gibbs Racing. Obviously, like I said, Ryan Truex picked up his first career NASCAR Xfinity Series win at Dover earlier this year, and a lot of people believe that Ryan Truex deserves an opportunity and a shot to go full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series with a great team and a great organization. Hope it ends up happening, and it could happen in 2024. Then, out of nowhere, basically announcing Carl Edwards will be announced as the top 75 greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. And then Carl Edwards, out of nowhere in the media, basically speaking on the Fox broadcast, he's not ruling out a potential return to NASCAR. A couple teams that could potentially be possibilities for Carl Edwards is obviously Trackhouse Racing. As Trackhouse Racing, of course, they basically have been looking to expand in some areas. Maybe we're talking about maybe expanding to 3 cars for 2024. But Carl Edwards could also be there because he's visited the Trackhouse Racing shop in the past as well. We've also heard 2311 Racing because we all thought that 2311 Racing could be a potential team that Carl Edwards could go to. Then we eventually found out it would be basically Travis Strana who was going to end up driving that car. But Carl Edwards, maybe, just maybe, in the not-so-distant future could return. He could potentially return in the future. Then in that same Darlington weekend for the throwback race, Casey Kane basically revealed to the media, speaking to people from French Judge, that he's actually considering a return to NASCAR. Casey Kane says he's feeling a lot better and much more healthier than he was, and Casey Kane definitely really feeling a lot healthier and definitely would love to come back to the NASCAR Cup Series in the foreseeable future. We could see Casey Kane come back, and he's considering a return to the sport. Then it would basically be revealed about a week or two later after Shane Van Gisbergen announcement of him going to be debuting at Trackhouse Racing that Brody Gesicki could race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series because Aravis has a deal with Joe Gibbs Racing, Rich Schultz Racing. So we could see Brody Gesicki potentially make his NASCAR debut in the Xfinity Series, maybe on a road course. He comes from the Supercar Series and has had a lot of success in the Supercar Series racing there. Then we started hearing a lot of rumors around the Coca-Cola 600 weekend, but it would basically be revealed that Josh Berry is currently finalizing a deal to drive for Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024, and it's expected he will drive the number 4 car for Stewart-Haas Racing, with Rodney Childers being the crew chief. Josh Berry is obviously a very, very talented driver. Will be leaving the Junior Motorsports camp, which we'll talk about in a second, who I think could be some candidates to drive for that number 8 car or drive for Junior Motorsports in general. But Josh Berry, after really promising starts in Cup as well, is expected to do a really, really good job with Stewart-Haas Racing. Probably not as good as Kevin Harvick's done, but he's expected to drive the number 4 car in 2024. Then during the Charlotte Xfinity Series broadcast during the rain delay, Roger revealed, talking, I believe, to Austin Center, that he does not have a ride for 2024 and is currently a free agent. With GMS Racing expected to switch to Toyota in the Truck Series heading into 2024, that leaves Roger Croft currently out at the moment. I can see Roger Croft going to KBM or potentially Rev Racing into 2024, but currently at the moment, it does sound like right now that Roger Croft will not have a ride as of now for 2024. Then Trevor Bayne recently spoke to Kelly Crandall from Racer.com, and he says he is going to at some point race in the 2023 season. However, he revealed that he almost had a full-time opportunity and a full-time ride to drive for a Truck Series team. Some people believe it could have been Kyle Busch Motorsports or maybe an Xfinity Series team, but the sponsorship he had, which I would imagine is Devotion Nutrition, backed out of the potential of him getting an opportunity to race. But it does sound like the Trevor Bayne will come back and race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Then, Jordan Bianchi basically started putting out a silly season update and a silly season report on theathletic.com. And there's a lot of things that are expected. First, Eric Almirola could retire at the end of the 2023 season. Eric Almirola has been 50-50 on retirement. He does have a multi-year contract with Stewart-Haas Racing, and he does bring sponsorship and funding in. However, with how bad Eric Almirola has been performing so far in 2023, it seems like he's not having fun. Yes, he just most recently won the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Sonoma. I would imagine Eric Almirola could retire at the end of 2023. So, and on that article, Jordan Bianchi revealed that Michael McDowell and Zane Smith are currently the lead candidates right now to drive the number 10 car. Zane Smith, though, is under a multi-year deal with Front Row currently at this moment right now, so he could return and drive full-time in the Cup Series in the number 34 car or the number 38 car. But Michael McDowell also could be, like I said, a lead candidate to drive the 10 car next year, as Michael McDowell does not have a contract past this season. It's a year-by-year deal with him. I could see Michael McDowell getting a shot and opportunity, but I also could see Zane Smith going over to Stewart-Haas Racing and driving. The big question is which driver will go. It sounds like it will be between both of those drivers. In that same case, we got to talk about Todd Gilliland, because according to Jordan Bianchi, Todd Gilliland has currently not worked on a contract for the 2024 season. He's basically spoke to me recently. He hopes to have a deal done really, really soon, but he has said publicly that he does not have a contract for 2024, so he could be a free agent heading into 2024, but I think of how good he's from Front Row Motorsports, I would imagine that Front Row might be making a mistake by not trying to re-sign him to get back in a ride next year. In that same article, it was basically revealed that Mark Truex Jr. is expected to return to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2024. And why would he leave? He's been having a really successful 2023 season, basically a comeback year for him after kind of struggles in 2022, though he was really, really consistent in that season. Mark Truex Jr., I think, is going to be very, very good regardless of what he does in 2023. He's been really good as a championship threat and a contender, and he's expected to return to JGR in 2024. In that same article, it was revealed that Harrison Burton is currently 50-50 on returning to the Wood Brothers. Now, Dex Imaging could leave and go to another organization, and that could put Harrison Burton in the running potential drive for Stewart-Haas Racing heading into the 2024 season. But I have to imagine that they would also like to keep him around. They want to see him perform a little better. The Wood Brothers are expecting to perform a lot better, and I think we've seen some good performances from him recently, but I think there's a chance he could also return to the Wood Brothers in 2024. The final thing noted majorly in that article is that Justin Haley is expected to re-sign with Kaulig Racing. Now, there's been a little bit of indication he's on a contract year with Kaulig Racing currently at the moment, but Chris Rice has said publicly that he really likes working with Justin Haley. So I expect that Justin Haley is going to sign an extension with Kaulig Racing, probably a multi-year deal with the team, and will continue driving the number 31 car long term. As long as Chris Rice and him like each other, he'll be driving for Kaulig Racing. Then about a week or two ago, it was reported by Adam Stern that FedEx is close to signing an extension with Joe Gibbs Racing, meaning that Denny Hamlin is likely going to return to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2024. The biggest thing right now holding up Denny Hamlin from re-signing is basically the contract toss, is basically FedEx, if they were going to return or not. With FedEx likely returning in 2024, I would imagine in the coming weeks that Denny Hamlin is going to sign an extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. I would think it'll probably be a 2-year deal at least, probably go through 2025. And I imagine that is going to end up being publicly shown, that we'll see how long the deal is. Then, very recently, Carson Osbar, who's been driving the 77 at times Spire Motorsports, which has an alliance with Junior Motorsports, it's rumored that Carson Osbar could join Junior Motorsports heading into the 2024 season. After how he's been performing in the Truck Series, how he's performing in Xfinity Select Starts with Spire, and the how he was running before he had the brake rotor failure, I would imagine that they are looking at potentially moving Carson Osbar up full time. He's got Premier Security sponsorship as well, so that's a big thing that could help him out, and he could be a candidate for the 8 car heading into 2024. The final major thing noted so far in his silly season is that Gray Biffle, he spoke to the media, and he says he's interested in returning to NASCAR. Now, it is very possible that he could return in 2024 if Portland gets added to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. He says that NASCAR could definitely host a Cup Series race at Portland, and says he would like to have a deal to race at Portland. Since he's kind of from the Uniclau, Washington area, which is kind of close to Portland, if I'm not mistaken, I would imagine that we could see Gray Biffle return and drive at Portland Raceway and maybe return in the foreseeable future. So those are things we know up to this point. Let's talk about some other possibilities. First, John Hunter Nemechek. We don't know about John Hunter's future past 2023. It was noted in that Jordan Bianchi article that if we see Denny Hamlin or Mark Truex Jr. leave, that John Hunter Nemechek could be a lead candidate to take over that ride. Next, Rick Ware Racing. Rick Ware Racing's future is very, very uncertain currently at the moment right now, as right now they don't have a full-time driver. So they could downsize to 1 car, but they also could still have 2 cars in 2024. Next, Spire Motorsports. They currently have 2 cars currently at the moment right now, but I could see Spire Motorsports potentially downsizing to 1, maybe selling a charter, and that's how Junior Motorsports maybe gets their charter for 2024, or maybe, just maybe, we see a team like RCR take that charter for Austin Hill. And the final thing I want to mention is Matt DiBenedetto. Matt DiBenedetto currently drives for Brackley War Racing. If how he's performing Brackley War Racing, I would have to imagine teams are looking at Matt DiBenedetto as a possibility to move up heading into 2024, but nothing is guaranteed up to this point. So that is going to be it for the NASCAR Silly Season Update, the 3rd edition of it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on so you know if I win a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Link description below over that, and comment your thoughts below and your predictions below for 2024. What are your thoughts on the silly season update? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will have a news video up on the channel later this week. Actually, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, I have a NASCAR news video jumping on the channel. If there is any news that drops in a day or two, I'll have a news probably later today. And then, obviously, of course, we got more really awesome special videos coming out during this off week that I think you're really going to enjoy. We're getting closer to 2,000 subscribers on this channel, getting close to 1,800 subscribers. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.